Hello everyone and welcome to Burnt Toaster Productions. I'm your host, Burnt Toaster. Last month I had decided to try to finish the run-up with a crossbow, which is part of why I ended up failing, among also simply having a skill issue. Anyway, a viewer left a comment on that video suggesting to have a run centered around using crossbows. You know, give them a chance at redemption. So that's what I'll be doing today. The rules are quite simple. As one would expect, I must only use crossbows for the purposes of combat as soon as I get my hands on one. I'll be allowed only one non-aggressive supplemental spell. In other words, if it's anything that deals damage when casted, it's not allowed. Examples being Fireball, Inflame, Battle Charge, and etc. Crossbows and armor are allowed to be bought. Restorative items such as potions and food must be looted. To give the ranged weapon the biggest opportunity for redemption, I'll be playing on the heroic difficulty. And as usual, if I fall 3 times in battle, the run will be considered a failure. However, unlike last time, in the case I fail, I'll continue pushing through to the bitter end, even if it is mentally or emotionally painful. And that's it for the rules. I'm going to be giving crossbows the spotlight and provide ample chances for them to prove themselves. In light of that, I'll be allowing the usage of a legendary. If I'm going to be judging an entire weapon type, I might as well use the best possible version if or when I get to it. Now, let's get into the run, shall we? For this run, I decided on maximizing the amount of gold I start with, which, granted, doesn't exactly do me any favors. 3 gold isn't a huge amount after all. But it does stack up. Anyway, since it's Teresa's birthday, I buy a box of chocolates and hand them over to her. That triggers a bandit raid on Oakvale, which means my father is no longer breathing, and I get taken to the guild. Not much happens, I fight some beetles and continue on to further training. That's where things actually get a bit more interesting, as after the initial bout of training, I can get graded. The one I'm specifically eyeing is archery. That is because if I perform well enough, I can get a crossbow out of it. Once I acquire my crossbow, I immediately test it out on some bandits Whisper and I found in the woods. So far, it's not awful, but this could barely be considered real combat. I also went through and exterminated the sparrows around the guild for a bit of money. I progressed through the rest of my training, putting in the bare minimum effort, as I actually want to get into this run as soon as possible. After I finally graduated, I can leave the guild, but first I can choose something to level up. I chose speed, because the reload speed of crossbows is atrocious compared to a longbow. With that done, I wanted to try to get more of an edge and went to Bowerstone South to sell some things. I was hoping to have enough money for an oak crossbow, but sadly, that wasn't in the cards for me. Then again, it's not like the Wasp Queen is anything to genuinely prepare for. The fight with the little peons showcases the biggest problem with crossbows though, that being their reload speed, which I had mentioned earlier. If you get hit or have to dodge while reloading, it'll restart the reload animation, and that's where most of the crossbow's problem lies. Well, that and how they function in-game, you still have to charge the shot in order to get the most damage out of it. When paired with the slower reload speed, it makes them feel a bit frustrating to use in large fights. Thankfully for now, I just have some bugs to shoot at. Speaking of bugs, the Queen finally makes her appearance. It was as pitiful as always. A few shots after 2 waves of 3 wasps, and that's all she wrote. When the dust has settled, I've already made my way back to the guild. I grabbed a level of speed, accuracy, and health. I then head over to Bowerstone and grab my oak crossbow. Now that I'm done shopping, I head back to the guild to accept the Orchard Farm quest. I chose to protect it for a change. On my way there, I got my first proper taste of combat for this run. It wasn't bad, though to be completely fair, that first group of bandits was a bit distracted by a traitor. The second group also included a couple of wasps, but nothing I couldn't handle. Oh, and I also grabbed a Willmaster's elixir while I was here. While I was in the neighborhood, I made a little stop at Fisher Creek to grab a silver key and leather gloves. Moving on, I got the silver key at Greatwood Lake and returned to the guild. Before I defended the farm, I got another level of speed and a level of toughness. I also stopped by the demon door to get the elixir of life from inside, and went to the guild woods for the silver key. Without allowing myself to get distracted with other things, I finally head to the farm. Defending it isn't too bad, actually. The first wave went down without any real issues. As I was waiting for the second wave, I fished for an elixir of life. Honestly, the rest didn't even do much besides get decimated. After that mess, I get to fight Whisper. As usual, in order to actually initiate the fight, I must first flourish, which I do via hand-to-hand since ranged weapons lack the ability to flourish. Good thing for me, Whisper has yet to learn how to block my bolts and yields pretty soon after starting the fight. Having completed the quest, I head back to the guild and decide to grab my one spell for the run, Multi-Arrow. The name is pretty self-explanatory, and I have an inkling that I'll be needing it for this particular run. If I can't have speed, I'll have damage. While here, I also grab a level of accuracy, health, and toughness. Since the problem at Orchard Farm has been handled, I accept the Trader Escort quest and then head off to Bowerstone to grab a key. I then set off to Darkwood after grabbing it. The journey there provided me an opportunity to test out Multi-Arrow. I felt like it was a decent enough investment. Kind of a good thing I got it this early too, because at Greatwood Lake a troll had spawned. It's here that I opened the chest and got an elixir of life. After I made it to Greatwood Gorge, I went back to the guild and got a level of speed as well as toughness. Afterwards, I teleport back and deal with the bandits there. I did notice something strange while I was fighting. Sometimes when I was in combat with bandits, one of them would just stand there at the end of a bridge. To be fair, it was more helpful than anything else, but it did immensely cheapen any sort of sense of achievement. Oh well. Moving on to Greatwood Caves, instead of dealing with hobs, I had yet another earth troll. Due to their general predictability, it was an easy fight, but since I was in the neighborhood, I visited the Hob Caves and grabbed the Willmaster's elixir in the silver key chest. Well, time to actually start progressing the game. There's not much of note happening, especially since I'm just doing what I normally do when it comes to this quest. The Balverine fell a lot quicker than I had anticipated, bandits don't fare much better, and to make matters worse for anything that plans to stop me, I'll have an ebony crossbow that I bought from Darkwood Camp. Have to admit, it was well worth the money. I was taking out most bandits and hobs with a single bolt. Of course, at the end of the path, there's once again another earth troll. Didn't take all that long, though the reload speed of this crossbow makes me want to eat several pieces of gravel. With the troll defeated, we can get to Barrow Fields and complete the quest. After having a really quick chat with Maze, I went back to the guild and got another level of speed. Before I went off to commit mass deletion of a criminal organization, I went around Oakvale to loot and sell some items to get most of the chainmail set. I was thinking the abandoned road would be a rather trying experience. Since I had finished preparations, I got to work. The clifftop path is the perfect example of an area where using a ranged weapon of any kind is simply the most efficient way to move forward. After eradicating 3 bandits, it's time for me to deal with the abandoned road. This area is generally a bit of a slog as the elite bandits are a fair bit tougher. Plus, they're capable of dealing significant damage, though really only if you don't have armor. It's still a small Sisyphean effort to get through due to crossbows being slow loading, and there are a lot of bandits who are not going to stand idly by while I line up a headshot. The main tactic is what it has been so far when dealing with melee confrontations: shoot, move, dodge if needed, and repeat until nothing lives. Unless I could keep a distance between my target and myself. Anyway, I clear through the area without issue and get all of the pieces of the bandit outfit. Once I'm allowed inside the camp, I decide to really put the crossbow through its paces, starting with the gate guards. I was, at the time, considering being smart about it, but then that'd make it easier than it has any right to be. As one would expect, the bandits hanging around the immediate area weren't exactly tough. Their reinforcements didn't fare much better. Though I was getting chased around and it forced me to perpetually reload my crossbow. Also, I seem to have a problem getting a headshot on the bandits with a weird little banner thing on their back. I don't know if it's just my terrible aim or if their hitbox is a little wonky. Regardless, in the elite camp, it's more of the same, though this time most of them are sleeping, which is a shame since I don't have the power to take them out with a single shot. But I was able to do that with the 4 guys that ran out once I eliminated enough bandits. On to the fight with Twinblade. Because I like some level of expediency, I began using multi-arrow. Otherwise, I'll be here for a dog's age with a bunch of footage that won't make it into the video. Thankfully, my overall strategy of always moving seems to work wonders here. Before you know it, Twinblade falls to his knees, Teresa makes her appearance, says something about the arena, gives me some XP, and then leaves. Being the XP-hungry, bloodthirsty individual I am, I get rid of the immediate bandits and put Twinblade down into a permanent dirt nap. When I return to the guild, I get 2 levels of accuracy, a level of health and toughness, a level of multi-arrow, and another level of health on top of that. Having committed at least 3 possible war crimes against bandits, Maze asks me to do him a favor and look for the Archeologist. The only combat here is with a rock troll, and, well, multi-arrow is quite helpful in making this encounter quicker than it would be normally. When I have dispatched the troll, I move on to the witchwood stones, hit them in the correct order, and find our missing man. Finally, being done with that, I tried to get a silver key from a body of water right in front of the demon door. I had my line snap a couple of times, so I felt it was necessary to participate in the fishing competition for the Rod of Champions. It only took me a couple of tries to get a fish big enough. I also got a silver key for my trouble, which ended up sending me on a nice little hunt for more keys. I would go into more detail about where I got the keys, but to be honest, there's not much to say. I went somewhere, avoided combat if possible, and dug or fished up a key. Then repeated the process until I had enough for what I was wanting. During my collection, I went back to the guild and leveled up a bit, getting a level of toughness and 4 levels of guile. After I got as many keys as I needed, I went to Darkwood Lake, cleared the area, and unlocked the silver key chest. This one contained Arkan's crossbow, which is the strongest crossbow in the game. As far as pure damage goes, at least. Honestly, it's not as big of an improvement as I thought it'd be, but it's still better than nothing. I rarely get to use legendaries for these videos anyway, so humor me this one time. Now that my weapon is practically set for the rest of the run, I decide to take on the Trader Rescue quest. I wanted a bit of XP and I felt it might be a good opportunity to test out my new crossbow. It's a pretty nice improvement, though I do find it to be a slight bit lackluster. Probably because it's still a crossbow, but it's enough of a difference to be noticeable. Anyway, I run through, slaughter the bandits, grab the traders, and lead them to safety. Since I had enough for it, I got another level of guile. Turning my attention to more pressing matters, I make my way to the village of Knothole Glade to help out with their canine issue. On the way, I found a key and an elixir. Then it's actually time for me to do the job I came here to do. Good thing this crossbow has a silver augment. It was taking the standard Balverines out left and right. The confrontation with the white Balverine wasn't the worst thing in the world. I was able to flawlessly fend him off 3 times, but boy did I overestimate the difficulty I'd have. Multi-arrow with this crossbow just destroyed the poor thing. With the beast defeated and its head collected, I return to the chief who tells me I can fight in the arena. I returned to the guild and spent what XP I could, which meant I could only get a single level of health. I wasn't satisfied with that though and decided to grind for some more XP and healing items. During my little excursion, I found a trader that was selling a set of plate armor. Since it never hurts to have some defense on my side, I spent around the ballpark of 17k. To be fair, I don't have anything else to spend my money on, so yeah. Once I was done massacring Hobbs and the bandit population of Albion, I went back to the guild to grab a level of accuracy. While there, I checked to see how much XP I needed for another level of multi-arrow. Considering I don't need much, I go out and deal with some more nasty individuals, then return for that next level of multi-arrow. The arena can be quite chaotic at times, so I felt it was a pretty sound investment. Speaking of which, time to get through the arena. Honestly, yeah, most of everything was a joke. The only creatures that put up a decent enough resistance early on were the Hobbs. Gotta give credit to the little fellows. They can take a bolt from a magical crossbow pretty well. Several, not so much. But right after that, it's back to enemies folding like a lawn chair, although one of the white Balverines did give me some problems, mostly due to having a little friend to help out. Once it was taken care of, though, it's back to smooth sailing. Only had a few hiccups during the bandit round. The earth trolls barely existed. Literally took just a bit under 20 seconds. As if the universe wanted to give me some false hope because the rock troll round wasn't the smoothest fight I've had so far, until the first one fell. Afterwards, I have to fight Arachnox. Yeah, the fight was pretty laid back. I mean, it basically always is thanks to those telegraphed moves, but it went by in a flash. The fight with Whisper, however, was another story. She was a rather annoying opponent, because she would block my shots semi-consistently. In response, I relied on multi-arrow and timing my shots. Eventually, I got her to yield, and while I would usually put the final nail in her coffin, I'm not dealing with another round of her blocking my shots. So for probably the first or second time of this channel's history, I walked out and left her alive. When I finally exited the arena, Teresa sent someone to let me know she wants to talk. Before going over to the Grey House, I went to the guild to spend some XP on 2 levels of speed, a level of toughness, and 3 levels of magic power. With that done, I head off to meet Teresa, who tells me I need to get into Bargate in order to break our mother out. but I have to locate the Archeologist since he's the only one who knows of a secret passage into Bargate. Well, no time like now to go save the guy. Though I am a little worried that the crossbow's lack of speed is going to put me in a terrible spot, and that's because I have to fight minions. Surprisingly, it's not that bad. 3 or so shots is all it takes for the standard variety, which means if I can charge the shot, the Dreadwings will take somewhere around 4. I'm kind of thankful I got Arkin's crossbow. I just have to keep moving, which is easier said than done when there are multiple enemies around. Regardless, after a nice bit of minion destruction, I have a rock troll to contend with. It was a bit of a rough time simply due to it being placed at a choke point. In other words, I didn't have much room to maneuver. But thanks to the power of multi-arrow, I stopped that troll pretty quickly. The minions in the area didn't stand much of a chance either. Once again, thanks to multi-arrow. I stormed down to the dock and started letting bolts fly. Didn't take too long, and for some reason the fight ended early since there was still a Dreadwing at the end, but oh, okay, I guess I'll take it. With the Archeologist saved, he tells me what I need to know and goes on his way. I take a bit of time for a little pit stop at the guild, getting a level of accuracy. With my next objective to reach a hidden path through Lychfield, I get over there. The process is pretty quick. I find Nosher's stuff, give the items to him, and the demon door opens for me. At the end of the path, there's a large undead blocking my way forward. Or, there was. Moving on to the Circle of the Dead, it's nothing intense. The undead are pretty weak overall. Once I have sated the circle, the way to Bargate is open. Getting into the prison wasn't really that hard. Then again, the undead don't hold up against my crossbow so well. I did start having some problems in the closed-off section right before entering the actual prison. That many large bony boys was not fun in a small area, mostly because multi-arrow performs terribly in such close quarters. Despite the initial difficulty, I got a lucky shot off with multi-arrow and handled the rest without relying on a spell. In the actual prison, things were a little more relaxed, though still rather annoying since the guards were moderately tough. The only thing that really hurt them was their predictability, and luckily for me, multi-arrow works as long as I'm not too close to a wall, which helps speed this up a fair bit. Eventually, I find my mother and we make our escape until Jack stops us and indirectly forces me to go through 2 races once again. When I have acquired the required key, I leave my cell, free my fellow prisoners, get my stuff, watch in horror as I unintentionally end most of the prisoners, fight some guards, free my mother again, and fight even more. I sadly can't really use multi-arrow very often because my mother can and will get hit by the extra bolts that are summoned. Or arrows. I don't know which one to consider it since the spell is called multi-arrow. Let me know down in the comments. After a little while, we made it to the Kraken. The Kraken isn't by any stretch a difficult fight. I simply took a bit longer this time around thanks to, well, the thing I've been complaining about the entire video. Once it pops its ugly mug up from the water though, that's where things are quite quick. Multi-arrow is a godsend for this run. All it takes is one more round of shooting at its tentacles and then I can unleash a volley of bolts or arrows on the sea monster's face. Now that we're finally free, my mother gives me my next objective and then gives me some more XP. With that, I went back to the guild, fully leveling accuracy and getting another level of magic power. Having been tasked to take a look at the Cullis Gate in Darkwood, I head over there to feed the gate Souls of the Undead. It's not a rough experience. Thanks to multi-arrows sometimes acting like a really wide shotgun blast, I was able to get through the undead with only a few muck-ups here and there. Once I make it through, I find the old abbey. The issue is there's a barrier blocking it, so I must return to the guild to figure out what my mother found. Of course, when I'm actually there, she gets yoinked by Jack's minions. With nothing else to do at the moment, I hand the book over to the guildmaster and go back to Hook Coast. Thankfully, screamers are pretty weak enemies. A single lightly charged shot is all that's needed. I successfully fought my way to the barrier and now get the pleasure of fighting Maze. The fight with Maze is moderately annoying. He's capable of blocking all the projectiles when I use multi-arrow, which means it's more about finding the right timing or distance to attack. I found when he started lobbing what I'll assume are fireballs to be the best time to pelt the man with bolts. Though once he teleported to the lighthouse, I began to have issues again. He has a tendency to rush you when you've been perceived as close. Plus, he loves to use physical shield. Eventually, I get lucky and he tries to throw more fireballs my way, catching him with one of my bolts. After that, he's decimated by multi-arrow, ending his pitiful existence. After all of that, I had decided to get more keys. I've gotten a fair amount in my travels so far, but I wanted to get more. The reason being the Archon's battle armor. So I started the process of marrying Lady Grey, and of course that meant finding Thunder, which is what I needed in the first place, as there is a key in the Demon Door area. But before I went off to do battle, I went around and stole a lot of things to get as many books as possible so I could turn them in at the Barrowstone School. While I was in Oakvale, I participated in the chicken kicking competition, got what I was wanting on the first attempt. I teleported over to Lychfield since I was still missing a key from there. It was, funnily enough, the easiest one to find. A while longer, I have stolen or taken as many books as I possibly could. Time to deal with Thunder. It wasn't a terrible experience. It's rather easy to bait out his lightning attack, and as long as he isn't applying pressure, I should be fine. When I've pushed him back to a cave, I can finally get that key. Ah, nothing quite like a spot of fishing to calm the mind. Afterwards, I can end the fight and then expose Lady Grey for the sororicidal witch that she is, just so I can yoink the key from her bed. Guess it's technically my bed since I'm mayor. My key collection had come to an end as I went back to the guild to grab some more books. Well, I do still have the lost chapters to deal with, so it's not that big of a deal. While I'm still at the guild, I decided to see what I could level up. Since it seemed like it would be the most helpful, I finally maxed out multi-arrow. I'm tasked with chasing Jack across Albion, always being too late as usual. Eventually, he stops running around the place like a coked-up ferret and stands his ground at the guild. Let's get this over with. I have to deal with his minions first. Of course, thanks to multi-arrow, I was able to destroy them pretty easily. Jack himself was a fair bit tougher than his fodder. It doesn't help that one of his spells seems to have some really big, chunky hitbox in his favor. He also has the capability to block my shots, multi-arrow be damned. Even though he's likely to block them, some still get through his defenses, and I was able to whittle him down to his second phase. You'd think it'd get tougher from there, but it actually got substantially easier. He took way more damage and was a stationary target. Also fell after only 2 shots. Naturally, the choice I have to make here regarding the sword is I have to throw it away. I can't use it, and in order to keep it, I'd have to use it. So I threw it. After visiting my mother's grave, I'm called back to the guild, and since I'm already there, I spend some XP getting a level of guile, maxing out toughness, as well as health. My task is to get this special gem to call a ship forth so it may take me to the northern wastes. In order to get said gem, I must complete puzzles. I don't have a particular outcome I'm going for, I'm just doing whatever is easiest. Eventually, I complete the puzzles and can grab the fire heart. Since I have a bit of free time, I grab a couple more books and start donating to the school, earning myself another key. Now I need to get to Hook Coast and put the gem in the lighthouse. Nothing is simple though, as I have to defend it against the summoners trying to destroy it. However, they are pretty easy to deal with. Well, about as easy as it can be with a horde of minions guarding them. Plus, their ranged attack will hurt. A lot. Regardless, it only takes about 3 or so shots with multi-arrow active to put them down. The fire heart finally activates, and my right is here. The first enemy in the northern wastes is an ice troll. It was surprisingly easy to defeat. After that, it's just a number of minions, nothing I haven't dealt with before. I make it to Snowspire Village and receive the task of nabbing the Glyphs of Inquiry. But instead of doing that, straight away I go to Barrowstone and get a shave to fix my facial hair. Grabbing those glyphs isn't hard, just have to look for specific graves that have more positive messages. And there's only 3 of them. Since I'm here in the necropolis, I can also get the armor I've been wanting. I got more keys than what were necessary because I was thinking I needed all 30. I realized afterwards that I had confused this chest with the one containing the Avenger. Oh well, I still get my armor regardless. Once I have everything I'll ever need, I press on to get the last glyph. I did have to fight an ice troll, which was an annoyance, but that's about all it was. The fight with the 2 minions and summoners did not go as planned. You see, I planned on focusing the minions down so I have a bit more breathing space and, a little bit more maneuverability. The thing is, the area is rather small and I can't reload my crossbow easily. And add in the fact that I seem to be constantly fumbling with the menu when I try to heal in a panic. Yeah, you're looking at the first death of the run. Guess it's time to do this all over again. Don't worry, I won't solely blame the crossbow. It's a mix of a mediocre weapon and a horrible skill issue. I went through, as I normally do, though I found out the graves can switch locations, which was not expected. The second time around, the fight with the minions and summoners went much, much better, because it didn't end in my death. Having gotten the glyph, I went back to the guild and maxed out Guile. I then returned to Snowspire to find out what to do next, which involves fetching some souls. The first soul on the chopping block is a soul of the king of the arena. I pay Thunder a visit while he's here in Knothole Glade, and he tells me to search the arena itself. Honestly, as much as I want to fight him and take his soul, he's not particularly challenging in any capacity. In other words, he's kind of weak. So I, in a rare moment of mercy, spare Thunder and go to the arena. As soon as I enter, I have a couple of minions as well as a rock troll and an earth troll. It was a wee bit rough because of the rock troll, but after it fell, the earth troll didn't stay up for very long. Of course, the next group of enemies consisted of 2 rock trolls, 2 minions, and 2 dreadwings. I decided to focus the minions down, then work on the trolls. As soon as one was defeated, it was only a matter of time for the other. I do get a small reprieve in the form of a handful of Balverines and some minions of both varieties. It was simply an easy time that didn't have me getting punted all over the place. Then the last group consisted of summoners and minions. Even though summoners can hit rather hard, the arena has enough space to make them much more manageable. Once again, I focus on the melee-based or easier to defeat enemies, then focus on the ranged or bigger threat. Anyway, it's now over and I've gotten my first soul. Time for the second one. The second one is the heroine. I have a choice between my mother or Briar Rose's soul. I settled on my mother and you'll see why in a moment. Before I start my task, I stop by the guild to get magic power maxed out. And since I have leftover XP and nothing to spend it on, I leveled physique a number of times as well. With that done, I get over to the Memorial Garden and am greeted by a bunch of screamers. They may not take much punishment or deal much damage individually, but when there's a large group of them, they shred my health bar like tissue paper. I'm really glad I have multi-arrow. If it weren't for the pseudo shotgun blast that it does at close ranges, I'd probably be looking at my second death by now. It took a bit, but I'm able to defeat them and collect my mother's soul. I came close to meeting my end here though. I completed it with roughly a third or so of my health. The third and last one is the oldest soul. While I do like the idea of taking the guildmaster down, I also know his fight wouldn't be too out of the ordinary. So I chose to take Nostro's soul. In order to damage Nostro himself, I have to defeat the undead around him. It'll open him up to damage for a time before he's invulnerable again. It takes a minute as reloading the crossbow can happen at inopportune times. Then again, I do have multi-arrow hard carrying me through this run, so it's not a huge issue. I'm really happy that the undead don't understand the tactical importance of spacing. Otherwise, I'd be here for a while. With Nostro defeated, I have collected all of the souls and can put them in the shrine. Rather than go in and face Jack now, I wanted to prepare just in case. So I went around and started grinding areas for restorative items, mostly will and health potions along with food. I only did that for roughly 40 minutes just to be safe without sacrificing too much time. When I'm done grinding food and potions from whatever nasties I came upon, I feel ready to fight Jack. It's not that bad in all honesty. He did hit me a couple of times and I did have to contend with minions on 3 or so occasions. But once again, thanks to multi-arrow, I was able to dish out some pretty good damage and stay away from Jack's attacks for the most part. It was an incredibly quick fight lasting about 5 minutes and 11 seconds. It was so quick that I don't really have much to commentate on. I was expecting more of a fight than that, but I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. I still have a choice to make though. I yeeted that damn mask into the lava and walked away, ending the run. Throughout this video, I've been reflecting on my opinion of crossbows in this game. Before I went into this run, I was expecting it to be rather painful and stress-inducing, which it was a little bit, but I went in believing crossbows are practically useless. I mean, yeah, they are when you start comparing them to longbows. Like, there's no reason to use a crossbow over a longbow, especially when you consider the legendary longbows an extremely broken weapon. But you can still use them. They do the job they're meant to do, just less efficiently than longbows, as the damage increase from using crossbows isn't really worth it. My little weapon rant over. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you made it this far, I'd appreciate it if you considered liking, sharing, and subscribing, especially if you want to see more runs like this in the future. This has been Burnt Toaster from Burnt Toaster Productions, and I shall see you all next time. Bye for now.